Hi guys, and welcome back to another video, part of the my ongoing journey towards launching a micro artisan coffee roastery. So I'm not sure if you saw the last video, visiting our coffee importer in Montreal. Had a fantastic visit there. We got a great tour, had a great discussion about the coffees available, and sampled a couple and ended up making a fairly, well, for now, a fairly large purchase. So what I'm doing today, I'm kind of updating where the numbers are, how much I've spent thus far in preparation of the launch. So the one cost I'm really not covering is the cost of the coffee roaster, because I already had that. But maybe on another video when I'm updating the cost again, I'll incorporate what the cost for that would have been. But right now, I'm not adding the cost of my drum that I'm roasting the coffee in. I'm exploring already a more commercial roaster, importing it from China. Now there is a fellow I've found on YouTube who has this roaster, beautiful little machine, and he has a way of getting a discount. So I'll be exploring that. But all in all, the price I would say is at least 25% of what it would cost purchasing it locally, or purchasing a comparable roaster locally. Um, and the lead time on it's pretty good. It's only like 2 months from placing the order, it being finalizing the production and then getting it shipped. But anyway, so that's for down the road when I am looking at roasting on a bigger scale. So right now, I mean, I'm trying to keep costs as low as I can. This is being fairly much bootstrapped. There's no investment into this, so this is all coming out of my own pocket and out of savings. But where I am right now, so obviously the big thing is I need coffee. So we visited the coffee roaster, looked at a whole bunch of different coffees, and I ended up buying 170 pounds. Now that sounds like a lot, but just here at home, we'll go through at least a pound and a half a week. So I don't anticipate that 150 pounds lasting very long. And also, it's to do a number of test roasts. So I do have some other beans already, and I'm looking at experimenting with a few blends. But I did pick up a 150 pounds of Colombian Supremo, and I then picked up 20 pounds of a Haitian coffee. Now, this is really just to give away as samples and gifts, the Haitian coffee. I'm not sure it's going to be something we carry or we'll be selling on a very regular basis. Um, but everybody loves Colombian. Colombians are very much a standard coffee. You can, at medium roast, dark roast, it's a fantastic coffee to roast. And I'm very familiar with roasting Colombian Supremo, so I'm very comfortable with it. But for the coffee, for the 170 pounds of coffee, now I'm just averaging it all together. I paid 1,226 Canadian dollars. I'll put up the US price as well. Oh yeah, I'm not outside. Obviously, I'm in my office right now, so you can see my. I do love my cigars and my rapidly depleting uh, collection in my humidor. But yeah, 1,226 Canadian for the coffee. So that averages to $7.20 a pound. There are cheaper coffees, but I want to make sure that the quality is there. So $1,226 for the coffee, averaging $7.20 cents a pound. The next thing I purchased is we made the decision to go with a nice um, black coffee bag. And I'll show you that in a second, how it's all looking. But for the stand-up pouches, and these pouches, they have the little Ziploc type enclosure. I can then heat seal them, but they have the valve in the back. So once the coffee is packaged, it can then degas. Now, coffee goes through what's called a degassing period following roasting. If you don't have that valve, the risk is that Once you bag the coffee and seal it, the bag can then expand and expand because of the gas buildup, the carbon dioxide, and it can explode. So it does need that one-way valve where it's not allowing air in, but it's allowing the bag to degas. Now for the bags, I bought an initial 500 1-pound bags for $220 Canadian. So that works out to about 44 cents a bag. I then wanted to play around with some labels. So we did go with an initial label. And now these prices are inclusive of tax. Now on the coffee there is no tax, but on the bags and on the labels there is tax, sales tax. So I then had 500 labels printed, and they worked. Labels are fairly expensive. They worked out to 52 cents each. So of course the price will come down for the labels and the bags when I'm ordering in higher quantities. So the total base cost for a pound of coffee, a bag, and a label works out to $8.16 Canadian. Now, for the propane cost, I haven't really worked out what the propane per roast is. I'm just averaging it out right now. I'm paying, and I've got a great supplier for propane. So right now I'm paying, I'm going to ballpark it and say 50 cents for the propane for one roast. So to produce 1 pound of coffee, I'm looking at $8.66 Canadian. So that gives me a starting point to figure out, okay, how much do I then need to sell it for to earn a decent return for the time I'm putting into this. So right now, I mean, I'm looking at $20 a pound. Now this seems fairly good. I found a couple of people who are much lower than that. But generally, I'm seeing the cost of fresh roasted artisan coffee much higher, up to, like, for example, the Haitian coffee, I'm seeing retailing for $44 a pound. And even for the Colombian, I'm seeing $15, $16, $17 for half a pound. But I need a starting point, so I'm going to say $20 a pound. So at $20 a pound minus the $8.66 to produce, which is the coffee, the bags, the labels, and the propane, I'm looking at a gross profit of $11.34, which sounds pretty good. But out of that, I'm also deducting taxes. Now, there's no sales tax on coffee, but I have to calculate income tax. So this is being launched as a sole proprietorship, which is essentially added to my overall income from my other work. So I'm really erring on the side of caution here, and I'll be subtracting 40% of the sale per pound. To allow, to put aside for income tax, leaving $6.81. So, the income tax I'm putting aside is $4.53. So pretty much the government is making almost as much as I'll be making on the sale of a pound of coffee. So at the end of everything, for the coffee, the bags, the labels, the propane, allowing for income tax, left with $6.81 a pound of coffee. So that gives me an idea of, how much do I want to roast, how much do I want to sell to make this a worthwhile venture. It's great wanting to do this, but at the end of the day, there has to be an ROI. It has to be worth the time and the effort I'm putting into this. But $6.81. Now, just very quickly, $6.81. So, let's just say $7 to round it off. I can do 4 pounds at a time right now. So if I'm looking at 7 times 4, that gives me $28 profit per roast I'm doing. And I can do 4 roasts comfortably, 3 to 4 roasts an hour. Let's say 4 roasts. Then I'm looking at 28 times 4. I'm looking at $112 an hour if I'm averaging it per hour. Now, this is a little difficult to do because I'm not roasting for, say, 8 hours straight every day. It depends upon the sales volume. But it kind of gives me an idea of where we are with the numbers. So the profit margin right now, after the costs, after subtracting tax, I'm looking at $6.81 a pound. So not too bad. Of course, I mean, you can see where volume purchasing will then be does have a huge impact. The more I can bring costs down, the more at the end of the day this roastery will be making. Now, this also impacts how much do I need, how much volume do I need to do to eventually justify the purchase of a more of a shop roaster like the one I'm looking at in China. Now, I'm looking at a purchase price, tax in, shipping, the roaster. I'm looking at about $4,000 US. So that's a lot of coffee. That's a lot of coffee that I have to be selling on a regular basis to justify. Anyhow, so that's where I am with the numbers right now. Those are the costs thus far. And this is the bag and the label. So we decided on the Proper Coffee Company as the name. And this is the bag and label. Here is the one-way valve I mentioned on the back. And what the idea is to then have a smaller label at the bottom indicating what the coffee is. So going, rather than putting it here and having to produce a number of different main labels, have a secondary label showing what the coffee is. So eventually it'll be nice when bags can be printed with the logo directly on the bag. But that's where we are right now. Still trying to keep costs as low as possible. Again, bootstrapping this from scratch. And it's not looking too bad. You know, I have pretty much everything I need to get going right now. The only thing I don't have is a more of a commercial grinder, you know, the big bun style grinders. So I'm thinking that the initial sales we'll be making will be sold whole bean only, generate a little bit of revenue to then invest into one of the grinders. The idea is to try and get one as cheaply as possible. So I'm scouring Facebook marketplace. There's a number there for sale. You know, brand new, you're looking at about $1,000. I've seen them on Facebook Marketplace anywhere from $150, $300, $400. So most likely we'll be starting with one of those too, so that we can offer it whole bean and ground as well. A lot of people don't have grinders. So that's where it is right now. Not looking too bad. And so the idea, the next step now is to really start to put a lot of ads out on Facebook, kind of still humming and hawing about a website and then integrating a shopping cart. And I've got a few ideas how to sell. You know, do the one-off sales. People can order by the pound. Then we have to figure out a way to ship. Shipping in Canada right now is a challenge. Canada Post is on strike. There are other alternatives, and I found a couple as well that allows me to offer shipping at a reduced price. So I'm exploring a few of those, and then figure out how to do sales locally, so we can basically roast, deliver, get cash, and invest that straight back into the roastery. So still on the really the planning stages right now. I'll be doing some more test roasts. I'm going to be looking at some blends. I've got some great Sumatra coffee from before. I've got some Brazilian Cerrado. I've got the Haitian. I've got the Colombian. So I'm going to be doing a few test roasts, and then coming up with names for each of the coffees we'll be offering. So anyhow, so that's for another video. But that's where it is right now. I'll keep you posted on how the roasting is going, the test roasts are going. That'll be starting any day now, experimenting with a few different blends. So roasting each coffee by itself, and then testing the ratios, mixing some Colombian with some Sumatra, seeing what that's like, and I'll keep you posted on that. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. Drop me a comment below, and if you're seeing this and you haven't, I would really love you subscribing to the channel. I want to get the name out there as much as I can, build a little bit of buzz around the Proper Coffee Company, and hitting the bell notification so you're told when I drop a new video. But thanks for watching if you made it this far, and I'll catch you on the next one.